بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فأما الذين كفروا فأعذبهم عذابا شديدا في الدنيا والآخرة وما لهم من ناصرين وأما الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فيوفيهم أجورهم والله لا يحب الظالمين ذلك نتلوه عليك من الآيات والذكر الحكيم إن مثل عيسى عند الله كمثل آدم خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون الحق من ربك فلا تكن من الممترين. Then as for those who disbelieve, I will punish them with a severe punishment in this world and in the next, and they shall have no helpers. And as for those who believe and do good works, He will give them their full rewards, and Allah loves not the wrongdoers. That is what we recite unto thee of the signs and the reminder full of wisdom. Surely the case of Jesus with Allah is like the case of Adam. He created him out of dust. Then He said to him, Be, and he was. This is the truth from thy Lord, so be thou not of those who doubt. ये कौन सा है ट्रांसलेशन? दूसरा मतलब शेरली साहब का दिखाएं, इसमें गलती लगती है. Surely the case of Jesus with Allah is like the case of Adam. He created him out of dust. Then He said to him, Be, and he was. Again he was किया हुआ है यहाँ, which is a deviation from the text. Now before we proceed with the interpretation of these verses, which I have just recited and read the translation of, I should point out to this particular part of this verse where قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونَ has been translated as He said to him, Be, and he was. The fact is that the Arabic tense used here is not that of the past at all. It doesn't say قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَكَانَ, because if the Holy Quran had said قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ, it would mean God said to him, or whatever it was addressed, kun be. Kun means be. Now, it was should be in Arabic kana, and it was. But instead of that, the Holy Quran has used for yakun. When God says be, then that thing begins to become and ultimately becomes. This is the correct translation of this tense yakunu, which is fa'ala yafalo, muzari'a in Arabic. So instead of saying kana, God has adopted this particular expression to indicate many other things. And this has been an issue which has been taken up by various commentators, and they have given different opinions as to why this particular expression was used instead of a simple statement that God said be and it was. So I think following the biblical majestic expression, God said be and it was, our translation had been lured away from the correct following of the text into that idiomatic expression be and was. So I think this is what we should not do. No, nothing of the past. Yakuno is a future tense. So many commentators have opined that kana is hazaf, which means, according to them, yakuno must be translated as yakuno. It began to be and ultimately was. They say that ultimately was is missing. So what is understood to be missing has been translated in our translation, and what is not missing has been left out. So it is a deviation from the Quranic expression, which I don't like. So this should also be corrected. Saki Sahib is here or no? You know, with the Joyanur Kalmo Sahib and Aftab Sahib and myself and one or two others, Malak Safarwan Sahib also participated in that revision of the translation. So in that, this also should be incorporated. Yes. Now I turn to the commentary of these verses. Commentary on these verses, I should say. About the word wafa, you already have heard so much. The literal translation of the word wafa is to give something completely over to someone. So tawaffa or istofa would be the same words used in different directions. When you say tawaffa, it means you have taken something complete and whole in ordinary meaning, but when it is applicable to a human being, and when God is the perpetrator of the word tawaffi, then it means only death and nothing but death. You have already heard this. But if you change the direction, then the word wafa, having the same meaning, only changes the direction. Wafa, instead of taking something whole, it gives something whole and complete. So wafa fulanan haqqahu means if you have given somebody his dues completely without keeping any part thereof for yourself. Ataho iyaho wafiyan. Also it means not only complete but plentifully. So when you say wafa, because this tense, this measure of Arabic also has the sense of generosity and plentifulness. So this can also be translated as he gave somebody, wafa fulanan, gave something plentifully, generously. Wafa, yafi, wafan, ofa, afan, all these three-lettered root words mean combined together mean pura kiya, completed, and this is why wafa in Urdu is used in the same sense of being loyal. Loyalty means that you are totally given up to someone, submitted to someone, and you keep your spoken or unspoken promises with that someone with whom you are doing wafa. So that also has a meaning of a complete giving of rights, submission of total rights. So here, in case of love, the right is to submit completely and to stick to those written or unwritten, spoken or unspoken promises. So that is why wafa has that connotation. Dirhamun wafin in Arabic is used to indicate a full dirham, not part thereof. The Holy Quran says, "Awful kayla iza kiltum." Whenever you give mayers or weigh for somebody, make it to the full. Do not be dishonest in your mayers. Similarly, the Holy Quran says, "Awfu bi-ahdi, ufe bi-ahdikum." You fulfill your covenant with me, your promise with me, and I'll fulfill my covenant or promise with you. Awfu bi-ahdillahi idha ahadtum, again the same sense. Wa Ibrahimul lazi waffa. Ibrahim is the one who did wafa with God, but wafa has been here the word has been used in the measure of wafa, which means that Abraham was so loyal to God that he fulfilled his promises to the maximum and to the minutest detail. And also it means he was very generous in his expression of love. Whatever he had for God in his heart, not only that he made promises can be small as well and inadequate as well in many things. So to fulfill a promise is a compliment, but not enough compliment. If the promise is also very generous, the maximum you can, then the word wafa is applicable to both these situations. It expresses it completely. So in the case of Abraham, this was the greatest compliment that could be paid to him by God, that he wafa, not only did he fulfill his promises, but he was very generous in his promises. He went to the maximum of his extent and did whatever he could to do his maximum for God. Mufradat Raghib, further emphasizing this meaning in case of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, points out that God says, وَإِذَا ابْتَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ, that when Abraham was tried by God, or when God tried Abraham in many ways, بِكَلِمَاتٍ, in different ways, فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ, he succeeded with flying colors in every case of trial, in every trial that he was put to by God. So that is the meaning of wafa. This is an expression. Why has God said wafa? According to Imam Raghib, this verse explains why Ibrahim is worthy of receiving this compliment. Another word used in this in these verses is tala. ذَلِكَ نَتْلُوهُ عَلَيْكَ مِنَ الْآيَاتِ وَالذِّكْرِ الْحَكِيمِ. So the word tala has two main connotations. Number one, in application to the Holy Quran, it is a recitation of the Holy Quran. Natluhu, like here it is used, ذَلِكَ نَتْلُوهُ عَلَيْكَ مِنَ الْآيَاتِ. This is what we recite unto thee from the signs of Allah. And the other meaning is to follow. So when it is applicable to human beings, it can have both the meanings together at one at the same time. When God says natluhu, it doesn't mean we are following you. But if a man is said to have used this word applicable to his own self, atluhu for instance. It means I follow, not only I recite the Holy Quran, but I also follow the Holy Quran. So these are the two major connotations of the word tala. So the Holy Quran also uses it, wal qamare idha talaha, when the moon follows the direction or the motion of the sun. So you can't say moon recites the sun. So it is obvious that here the meaning of following is what is meant. So in the Holy Quran we read allazina atainahumul kitaba yatlunahu haqqa tilawatihi. Those to whom we have bestowed the book, yatlunahu haqqa tilawatihi. They recite, that is one meaning. They recite it as it should be recited. But also here the second meaning is applicable. They follow the book, haqqa tilawatihi, as this book deserves to be followed. Another word which needs attention is zikril hakim. This has been taken up by various scholars as to what hakim means here. Zikr means reminder, and hakim means a wise reminder. But the word hakim has also been taken to mean muhkam, and this is a grammatical discussion in which various scholars, earlier scholars, have indulged themselves, and on the authority of some great grammarians, it is proved that sifat ism mushabba bil fail, fa'il or sifat on the measure of fa'il can also have the connotation of muf'al, which means that if the word in Arabic is hakim, it can also have the meaning of muhkam. So there are two different ways, but the one comprises both. Hakim has the connotation of hakim as well as that of muhkam. So this is how the meaning is broadened. So according to some scholars, this word should be read zikrul muhkam as well. Hakim means wise, and muhkam means which has been made strong, and also which is fundamental, which is clear, like the ayatul muhkamat, which throw light upon the rest of the Holy Quran. So zikrul hakim, or rest of the teachings, similar teachings. So zikrul hakim here in that sense would mean that this is a reminder in light of which the other teachings will be understood and explained. This is the fundamental teaching, and the other teachings should be seen and understood in the light of the teachings of the Holy Quran. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا فَعَذِّبُهُمْ عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَمَا لَهُم مِّن نَاصِرِينَ. Imam Razi has, as his wont, takes up various other commentators' questions which they have raised regarding various verses of the Holy Quran, and discusses from his own point of view their pros and cons. So he collects, because he seems to have read, or definitely I think he has read, all the other commentaries written before him. So to read Imam Razi would be enough for us to know whatever has been said on the Holy Quran from the time of Rasul Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam up to Hazrat Imam Razi. So in that way, it's a great book, and this is also the name of the book, Tafsir Kabir al-Razi. So here he has pointed out certain things, raised some questions with reference to other commentators, which I'm going to read to you. Number one, they have all discussed what Ta'zeeb means here. And they all are almost all of them are agreed that Ta'zeeb here applies to large-scale killing and imprisonment and other even accidents, etc. So whatever may happen, may befall a man on earth through the agency of man or through the natural agencies is covered by the word azab here in application to the rejectors of Jesus Christ. So all these calamities are going to befall them. This is the promise made in this, or the promise or threat. Not threat. Waid, this should be translated. I don't know how it should be translated. In Arabic there are two words. One is wa'd and one is waid. Wa'd is a promise which is good. And where glad tidings is mentioned, it is mentioned under wa'da. And waid means all bad news about the future. Promises and bad news as well. So here the word waid is used, which means for the ill which is going to befall to the Jews and which is destined, that has been mentioned under the word wazibuhum. Now the question is raised, if whatever befalls man in this world is referred to as an azab from Allah, then how would you understand the verse "Lo yu'akhidullahu an-nasa bi zulmihim ma taraka 'alayha min dabba"? The commentators have said this verse, which I have just read, seems to be contrary to this understanding of the word azab. Here the Holy Quran seems to promise that God will punish the Jews in this world. And according to them, this verse is contradictory, because here Allah says, if God had so decided, God should have punished people for their crimes in this earth, in this world. And if God had so done so, then God would not have left any living thing on the face of the earth. Now this verse seems to have been misunderstood by these scholars. This is a verse of much wider application and much deeper philosophy. They think this is contradictory, and this verse means that God has decided not to punish any people on earth for the crime they commit in this world. While the fact is that there are many other verses of the Holy Quran, even in application to Rasul Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's opponents, where they have been promised a punishment in this world as well. So this verse is a generalized statement discussing a different issue altogether. It doesn't mean that God has decided that no man will ever be punished on this earth. So this is what Imam Razi has understood it to be. He says that this is a general verse, general statement, and that is a particular statement, and they should not be put in juxtaposition to each other as one opposing the other. The second question which has been raised is that this shows, at least this verse means, that because Jews are punished from Allah, then their punishment should be outstandingly severer than the punishment of the Muslims and other believers, etc., Christians, etc. And they say that we have no evidence that this is what happens in case of natural calamities, etc., that only Jews are picked out for special punishment and the Christians and the Muslims are saved. So, as understood in this context, of course, this is a very potent question. But again, they have those who have raised this question have misunderstood the application of this verse. What this means here, that sometimes in this world, God would specially manifest His wrath upon the Jews. And during those periods, that manifestation of wrath will be so outstanding that the issue will not be confused on anyone, for anyone. Anyone at that time would be able to see and distinguish it as a very special wrath. It does not mean that this expression obviates the punishment or natural calamities befalling Muslims or Christians. That is a generalized phenomenon which goes on taking its shape, and from time to time it appears as a natural phenomenon. When earthquakes occur, when other great calamities befall mankind, then of course Jews and Christians and Muslims are all treated alike by nature. And this is not the fulfillment of this promise which is contained in this verse. This promise, when applicable, when it is fulfilled, then it singles out the Jews for a very special punishment. And then everybody can see, yes, this is the punishment. So everything that happens to Jews is not a fulfillment of this promise. And also this promise does not promise the rest of the mankind that you will not be punished and only the Jews will be punished. You will not suffer and only the Jews will suffer. So this is a misunderstanding of the verse. It doesn't have that object to serve. And a third question which has been raised is مَا لَهُم مِّن نَاصِرِينَ. The Holy Quran says that they will not have any helper when the punishment comes. So they say, the questioner says that we observe that Jews are sometimes helped even by Muslims. When, for instance, they are zimmi, they are under contract with living under a contract within the territory of a Muslim state, then whatever befalls them, it is the responsibility of the Muslim state to help the Jews who are their subject. So they say, the Holy Quran says, مَا لَهُم مِّن نَاصِرِينَ. Again, Imam Razi rejects it by saying that here what saves them is not a sense, the motivation of helping them on the part of the Muslims, but what saves them is a contract. So this contract should not be understood to mean nusrat, that is aid from someone. If you are under contract, then that contract helps you, but that is not considered to be a helper. Nasir here means special helper from any side. But that is not enough. This is not adequate. If you understand what is happening to the Jews, then you will know what it means. It does not mean that Malahum min Nasirin is a constant state of affairs where there is no let and loose, where there is no exception and no intermittent period. They think that it means that Jews, ever since this promise is made, would never find any helper in any way from any side. This is wrong. Jews have had other helpers as well, even from not only as zimmis, but also otherwise they have been helped by great powers and in the history also by various people. So we can prove from the history, the Jewish history after Jesus Christ, that they have been helped many a time. Even prior to Islam, by some other powers, they have been rehabilitated, re-established. So this is misunderstood again. Malahum min Nasirin is only applicable to that particular phase when God has chosen to show his wrath against the Jews and single them out for a special punishment. At that time, during that expression of God's wrath, the Jews will find no helper whatsoever. And that is also the meaning of that hadith which speaks of a future event when the Jews will be abandoned by all their supporters. And a time would come when nobody would help them. According to the Holy Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even the rock whose shelter they will seek will cry out, "Here is a Jew hidden behind me, come and get him." So that is the meaning of Malahum min Nasirin. There the rock means power, because mountains in the Holy Quran are, the word mountain is used to indicate great world powers. So a rock also is a symbol of power and protection. So some Muslim scholars have misunderstood this, and they think that actually they would seek shelter behind material rocks, and the rocks would cry out, "Come on and get the Jew, he's hiding behind me." This is not at all what is meant by the Holy Prophet of Islam. It means even the governments would withdraw their support, of course, but there will be small pockets where they will try to seek shelters, small pockets of power. But everybody would be terrorized to associate himself with the Jews. And that would be the time when you will find la nasra lahum. There will be no helper for the Jews. Now these times are like the times of the Nazi ill treatment of the Jews. Now, that doesn't mean that because it's a promise fulfilled, so we support the Nazi action at all. Sometimes a criminal is imposed to punish another criminal. But that doesn't mean that the criminal who is the agent of meting out the punishment becomes innocent because he is punishing a criminal. Sometimes a power is used to suppress another power. Both are criminals. The very act of being cruel to others is a rejected act, which is a sin. So this does not absolve the Nazis of the crimes they committed against the Jews. But the Jews in the sight of Allah were justified to be punished. So there are two different things which you must understand clearly. Men are not permitted to commit cruelties against others because they are not made judge here as such. And they must follow the normal laws of morality and code of ethics, etc. But because God is the proprietor of everything, when He decides to punish, He is not only the best judge, but He is the possessor of everything. So it is for Him to choose any manner, any method. So He sometimes chooses a criminal to punish another criminal. And that serves many purposes. And one of those purposes has been mentioned in the Holy Quran in Surah Hajj, under the verse which permits Muslims to enter a defensive holy war. There the Holy Quran says, وَلَوْلَا دَفُّ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَهُدَّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِيَعٌ, etc. It says that sometimes Allah saves religious minorities and small innocent people from the wrath of the criminals around them by making them fight each other. So when a big giant begins to fight another big giant, both are criminals, then this saves in between small innocent minorities. And that is what we already see in this world today. If there had been no big rivalry between the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc, and if they had not pitched their mights against each other, then the small nations which enjoy a measure of liberty would have been totally captured and trampled over by one side or the other. So this is what in principle applies to the punishment of Jews. Nazis were criminal. They will be punished in the hereafter because they were partly also punished here. But as far as Hitler is concerned, as far as those leaders of crimes are concerned, just to hang them until death is no punishment at all for what crimes they have committed against millions in such a heinous way. So because Jews are mawzoob, it does not mean that they will be saved punishment from heaven or from God in the hereafter. They will be punished all right as criminals. But the Jews here were also punished. This is the meaning. And when they were punished, there was no helper for them. This is what we see. And no helper does not mean again that nobody would attempt to help them or nobody would ever succeed to help them. This is also a wrong meaning. Nasreen means nobody would have power to help them effectively and strongly and purposefully. So during the Nazi regime also, Nazi period also, you find many instances where Jews are secretly helped, and many pockets were created by the Allies to help Jews out of their predicaments, and sometimes they succeeded. But as a whole, as a general phenomenon, you can see that all such efforts became frustrated in totality. And during the might of the Nazi regime, the Jews actually had no effective helper. This is the meaning of Ma'alahum min Nasrin. They will not be effective helper, which will save them from this general decree, this overall phenomenon of punishment. So if you understand the verses then these properly, then these questions do not arise at all. Another question which has been raised here is that as far as the Jews are concerned, their punishment has been referred to in the first person by God. And as far as the reward of those who believe in Jesus Christ and do not oppose Him is concerned, it has been referred to in the third person. There must be some reason and some philosophy for changing this attitude. For instance, you see here it is said, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا فَأُعَذِّبُهُمْ عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا. Those who reject Jesus Christ, فَأُعَذِّبُهُمْ, I will punish them. And when it says, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, those who believe and also do good deeds, فَيُوَفِّيهِمْ أُجُورَهُمْ, God will give them their rewards. So two different persons are used here. In case of punishment of Jews, God says, I will do it. So why this has been done? Some explanations have been forwarded, but I feel, personally I I understand it to be different from those explanations which have been forwarded. Ozibuhum here is to indicate that you should distinguish the general phenomenon of nature from what will happen to the Jews. So, although such things happen generally, and everything is attributed to God in that sense, but in case of Jews, it will not be blind nature taking its course. It will not be ordinary laws of wars and peace which will be operated. But here I will intentionally cause certain measures, or take certain measures to punish the Jews, so they should not be confused with ordinary phenomenon of war and peace and fights and natural calamities, etc. So to make this clearly a punishment imposed consciously upon Jews, God has used the first person. As far as yuwaffihim ujurahum is concerned, this is a phenomenon which is applicable to the whole mankind, all the people who do good deeds. And there is nothing special about it. Because whoever believes and whoever does good deed, he is being rewarded and will be rewarded ultimately by God. And it is a generalized phenomenon in which those who believe in Jesus are not singled out as a special favor. Those who believed in earlier prophet also, they would be rewarded. But Jews here are singled out for punishment as against others, because you will not read about any people other than Jews who rejected a prophet earlier and to whom God made this promise that I am going to punish you here on this earth as well, and in a manner that everybody would begin to see that this is a special punishment. So in the history of Jews you find such incidents, such periods where this promise becomes operative and Jews are singled out. But in case of no other people, you see this phenomenon operative as such. ذَلِكَ نَتْلُوهُ عَلَيْكَ مِنَ الْآيَاتِ وَالذِّكْرِ الْحَكِيمِ. This is, I have already explained the meaning of Natlu and Zikr al-Hakim. So there is nothing special to be explained in this verse, other than the fact that this is to emphasize the fulfillment of these promises. ذَلِكَ نَتْلُوهُ عَلَيْكَ مِنَ الْآيَاتِ وَالذِّكْرِ الْحَكِيمِ. That these two things, and also other things which have been mentioned earlier in the verses preceding these verses, what I am reciting to you, what we are reciting to you, they are special signs. So here it means that both the punishment of the rejectors of Jesus Christ and the reward of the believers would become manifest in such a way that they can be seen as special signs from Allah. It will not be just an ordinary phenomenon. Now when you see what has happened to Christianity ever since this promise was made, and when you see what happened to the Jews ever since this promise was made, then you definitely see a very different treatment of the Jews by nature or by God than that meted out to the Christians. Today the Christians have become the ruler, the biggest, mightiest power on earth. And as I explained once before, it is the Christians who virtually rule the whole world, because the atheists or the communists are also children of Christianity, and they belong to the same general group, and that is why both are referred to in the same classification of Yajuj Majuj. And Russian power is also mentioned in the Bible as a brother power or sister power to the main stem of Christianity. So this is the treatment we find on earth of these people. Now, despite the fact that they are criminal, and in some cases they are much more criminal in their treatment of smaller people than the Jews are, because Jews have been given very little chance later on to express their cruelty focused against a certain helpless people. In case of Palestine, you see them acting very cruelly against a small group or even a larger majority which is weaker. But otherwise, if you study the whole history of the modern times, you will find out that the Christian powers have become very cruel to the third world people, and they still go on bleeding them to near death economically and in other ways. Their colonization, their treatment of the people, and their cruelty spread over many hundred years are obvious, and they are, you don't have to prove this point. Everybody knows, and this is an established fact. But they are not treated like the Jews are treated. That is the meaning of ayat. When we say that there will be a difference between the treatment of God to the Jews and to the Christians, they are signs which will become manifest. And we are telling you these things as signs which are going to become manifest. And everybody would be able to see the difference between the two. So, that doesn't mean that they will not be punished. It means that they will have a long spell in this world where many generations will die, who will be punished later on after that. But as far as the Jews are concerned, as a class, there will be repeated punishment for them on this earth as well. إِنَّ مَثَلَ عِيسَىٰ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ آدَمَ خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونُ. The example or the case of Jesus in the sight of Allah is like that of Adam. خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونُ. God created him from dust, then said to him or to the dust, kun, be. فَيَكُونُ, then it began to be and would become ultimately. This is the literal translation of the word yakunu. Now this is a verse which has to be studied in depth and in detail, because a lot of controversy rages around this verse. Number one, the scholars have attempted to discover what God means by equating these two cases, Isa and the case of Isa and the case of Adam. In what sense they are similar? So most of the earlier scholars have believed that here the fatherless birth of Jesus Christ is what is being discussed. And in that, Jesus is similar to Adam. But many other scholars also of very high repute have differed with this. They say this is not what is meant. Only general similarity is what is mentioned. Most of the scholars who have adopted the attitude that the similarity only refers to the fatherless birth of Jesus Christ and the fatherless birth of Adam do that because they know from history that these verses of Surah Al-Imran were revealed at the time when a delegation of the Christians from Najran were calling upon Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they were holding a debate about the respective merits of Islam and Christianity. At that time, according to the tradition, some traditions, the Christians from Najran raised this question to support their belief that Jesus Christ was little son of God. They confronted Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the claim that Jesus had no father, and you agree with that. You believe that he had no father. So show us how a man could be born without a father unless we believe his father to be God himself. So according to these commentators, in response to this, Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam was told by Allah, and this verse was revealed as an answer to this question, that point out to them that Adam also had no father. More than that, he had neither a father nor a mother. And you still believe him to be an ordinary man born out of dust. And still you insist that Jesus Christ, having no father, must be a son of God, little son of God. So they say this is the reason why this is said. But if you take it literally to mean all this, then also it will be inferred that Adam did not have a father at all, nor did he have a mother. Also it will be inferred, and you will accept this view, that Adam, as understood by those earlier scholars, was molded out of dust and water, and when it was made clay, and then it was dried out in the form of salsalin kal fakhare, and then he was chiseled out of that dried earth, and then God breathed into him and made him a man as he was. Now this view is rejected by every knowledgeable person on earth, and it is impossible for you to attribute such a thing to the Holy Quran, while the Holy Quran is very specific on the question of the birth of mankind on this earth. And when you study in detail how man came to be born, then you understand that that is not what is meant by God at all. When he says that God created Adam from dust or from clay or teen, whatever you understand by the word teen and turab. Teen is understood to mean dust mixed with water when it becomes clay from which you can mold things. And salsal, of course, again is dried out, so dried that it becomes like a brittle stone which can be chiseled but cannot be molded. So let's see what the various scholars have to say about it. आगे पीछे हो गई है, आपने कर दी है। Allama Qurtubi has taken the position that the similarity as mentioned here in this verse between Adam and Jesus is that of their being without a father. Allama Abul Hayyan al-Undalusi, 754, also has has taken the same position, that both were without a father, so that is what the Holy Quran means, according to them. Al-Bahrul Muhit is the commentary by Allama Abul Hayyan Al-Andalusi, and he has taken this position there. Allama Razi has first mentioned this fact that there is no doubt, and all the commentators are agreed on this fact, that this verse was revealed at the time of at the time when a delegation from Christians of Najran were calling upon Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and were debating the issue of deity or otherwise of Jesus Christ. After this, he says from this can be inferred that the Holy Quran speaks of the similarity between the two regarding their both being fatherless, and so a rebuttal is made to the Christians that if Jesus is God because he is fatherless, or Son of God because he is fatherless, what would be the position of Adam who is fatherless and motherless? Secondly, Imam Razi says that also it is possible that just the wonderment is the question which is raised by this verse. The Holy Quran wants to point out to them that you believe Jesus had something supernatural about him because he was born without a father. So this wonder about something does not give you the right to believe in his being a deity or being superhuman, because you also believe in other things and more wonderful things, like Adam, for instance, whom you understand to have been born out of dust. So the Holy Quran points out, according to Imam Razi here, that in case of Jesus Christ, the element of wonder is certainly less, because for a child to be born out of the material provided to him only by his mother is far more reasonable and logical, because at least he is born out of the same material as shared by the mother, by every other human being, blood and all other material. But in case of Adam, the material is different, and there is a transformation of dust into blood and flesh and things and bones. So the element of wonderment there is far more than here in case of Jesus, so you have no right to declare him to be supernatural in any way. Then he enters a very scholarly discussion, which, although he doesn't mention evolution, but he is very close upon that. He says, Allama Razi says, that when God says we created Adam from dust, it should not be understood that dust is taken directly and turned into man. Then he goes on mentioning various verses of the Holy Quran which mention various stages of the development of man. So he begins by pointing out, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha attaqu rabbakum allazi khalaqakum min nafsin wahidatin wa khalaqa minha zawjaha huwa allazi khalaqakum min nafsin wahidatin wa ja'ala minha zawjaha. Then huwa allazi khalaqa min as-samai min al-ma'i basharan faja'alahu nasaban wa sihra. He says all these are the expressions of the Holy Quran which apply both to Adam and to the whole mankind. So there is a commonality about the creation of man which is shared by everyone. And Adam is no exception to that. Then he says, according to the Holy Quran, Allazi ahsana kulla shay'in wa bada khalqal insani min teen. It is God who created everything in the most beautiful way, in the best of manners. And He started the creation of man with teen, with clay. So that doesn't mean that he is made directly from clay. The process began with clay. In another place it is said, the process began with dust. So that would be the first step towards the creation. Then water gets mixed up. That becomes the second step. Then other steps are also mentioned. Then according to Imam Razi, the Holy Quran says, Bada khalqa insana min teen thumma ja'ala naslahu min sulalatin min ma'in mahin. According to him, sulala here means the very essence of the elements. So, sulalatin min teen, laqad khalaqna al-insana min sulalatin min teen also is mentioned in the Holy Quran, which means that whatever elements are contained in the dust and in the earth as a whole, out of the very essence of those elements, we created man. So the verses of the Holy Quran go on explaining themselves and go on widening the concept of the creation. Then, according to Allama Razi, not only materials are mentioned in the Holy Quran, but characteristics and attributes are mentioned in the Holy Quran from which God created man. So, خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَجَلٍ. God created man from hastiness. Then, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We created man with hard labor, from hard labor, and so on and so forth. So all these Allama Razi has mentioned by way of explanation of these verses without making a positive conclusion that this indicates evolution. But some later scholars have gone to understand this to be a process of evolution which has been mentioned by the Holy Quran. So that shows Allama Razi, at that time there was no concept of evolution. He must have been wondering at all this, and he was very close upon understanding the phenomenon of creation and its evolutionary journey from an ordinary small amoeba to man, or from whatever stage it took its start. So that also shows his vision and his clear thinking and understanding of the verse of the Holy Quran. Now, La takun min al-mumtareen has also been taken up by way of discussion. In the end, the Holy Quran addresses the Holy Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam and says, La takum min al-mumtareen. Do not be among those who doubt. So the various Muslim scholars are really shocked in the sense that if it is taken to mean literally, then it will be a great objection against the character of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as if he ever doubted the revelations which were made to him by the Holy Quran, by Allah. So he was never in doubt about the revelations which were delivered to him by Jibreel from Allah. So why should Allah say, La takum minal mumtareen? Do not be of those who doubt. Most of the scholars are agreed on this, that here, although the address is to Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is meant is the rest of the ummah. And of that there are many examples where Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned but the address is to the rest of the Ummah, and he is mentioned only as the leader. And all his followers are in fact addressed through him, so as to say, because he is the window between God and the rest of the Ummah. So whatever address is given to him is meant not only for his person, but through him to apply to the rest of his followers. And this, according to Imam Razi, has been explained in the Holy Quran in a way that makes us understand this phenomenon very clearly. And he has chosen the verse to illustrate this point. Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu iza tallaqtumun nisa. The Holy Prophet is mentioned, O Prophet of God, O Prophet, and then it says, Iza tallaqtumun nisa. When you people, collectively, all are mentioned, you give divorce to your ladies. So the address begins with a singular, and immediately it turns into a collective address. So according to Imam Razi, this verse is a window for us to understand this general phenomenon. The Holy Quran wants to point out that although a Holy Prophet would be addressed, but through him it is the rest of the Ummah which is being addressed. And here it is made clear, in other places it is not made clear because it's unnecessary. Once the message is delivered, then you understand it in every case. Tafsir al-Manar, this is a tafsir of the recent times. And now I have chosen those tafsir which are of recent times to give you a glimpse of what they think of this verse. Allama Rashid Raza has taken up the position which I have already discussed with reference to Allama Razi, that here the element of wonderment is what is being discussed, that the case of Jesus is less wonderful in his birth than the case of Adam according to your beliefs. Tafsir Allama Sayyid Qutb, Zilal al-Quran. Allama Sayyid Qutb has taken the position that according to the Holy Quran, not only Adam, but all of the mankind, the whole of the mankind, though apparently the verse says there is similarity between Jesus and Adam, but what actually the Holy Quran is saying is that there is similarity between everyone. Tafsir al-Qurani, here this is a scholar by the name of Abdul Karim al-Khatib. The title of the book is At-Tafsir al-Qurani lil-Quran, and this is the year of this scholar is not mentioned here, but he is also a contemporary. In his book in 3rd volume, he says that all this reference to the creation of Adam is exactly the theory of evolution described in the Holy Quran. So he takes up the verses of the Holy Quran as have been taken up by Imam Razi, but he makes that positive conclusion which we find missing in Hazrat Imam Razi, because he has no idea of the theory of evolution, although he reached very close to it by organizing the verses of the Holy Quran in various orders, in the order he understood that to be. But here a man of the modern times positively refers to the concept of evolution and says that in the Holy Quran evolution is mentioned. And of course he is right, but not as he has understood. He has made some mistakes in some conclusions, but generally speaking, I should agree with him that the Holy Quran makes itself clear that when we say that we have created man from earth or from dust, we do not mean he is created directly from earth. We mean that the process began from that and then ultimately it was evolved. So the same verses some of those verses which I also have been pointing out during my discourses have been mentioned by this scholar to prove the point. مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَرْجُونَ لِلَّهِ وَقَارًا وَقَدْ خَلَقَكُمْ أَطْوَارًا. What happens to you? What is your state? What has happened to you? مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَرْجُونَ لِلَّهِ وَقَارًا. That you do not attribute dignity to God by believing that He suddenly got some dust and mixed it with water and created man out of this, molded him out of this. This is against the dignity of God. وَقَدْ خَلَقَكُمْ أَطْوَارًا. While He it is who have created you stage after stage after stage, in many tiers, in many stages. So the Holy Quran makes it clear that there is no spontaneous creation of man from dust, but an evolutionary creation which has gone through many stages and tiers of evolution. Now here again, his concept of evolution is rather defective, and also his understanding of the Holy Quran is not as clear. So he starts in dictating his own theory of evolution, and that is rather, absurd. According to him, there were two phases of evolution. Number one, the botanical or vegetative evolution. And God waited until this evolution became complete. According to him, it started with mosses. All the previous eukaryotes and prokaryotes, etc., all these concepts, because they are unknown to him. So he starts at a much later stage from the visible stage of early forms of plant life, that is mosses and kai as we know it in Urdu. So he says it started from mosses until it went on developing and evolving and reached the summit in the form of date palm trees. He says that was the evolution and the ultimate of the evolution. And when God completed this evolution, then He turned to the creation of man, starting from amoeba, small animals. And according to him, it all started with the amoeba first, then sepia, these mollusks, etc., sponges, and then ultimately he travels along until he reaches the stage of monkeys and apes. And he says then in the monkeys we begin to see the human features in rather, in a shady and confused form. And gradually this mist is lifted from the face of monkey, and then we become clear in the form of man. So of course he has his own way of explanation how evolution took place, but the idea in itself is not wrong, that man has evolved. So he says, Ambatakum nabata. God says, we raised you like vegetation on earth. रूहुल मानी हो गई है ना, लूसी की, नहीं? Allama Ulusi has also suggested, as far as La takum min al-mumtareen is concerned, that Rasul Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has been mentioned singularly, of course, but what is meant is, La takum min al-mumtareen, do not be of those who doubt, as you have never doubted before. So he says that this is what is understood. We know up to now you have never doubted, so please continue in the same way and never doubt in future either. But most of the scholars, as I have already mentioned, have correctly understood it to be an address to the whole mankind, and Rasulullah Kareem is only serving as an opening window to them. Hazrat Masih Maud has discussed this verse in detail and in depth in so many places. I have only summarized what I have understood from his writing in the form of short statements. मसीह का बिन बाप पैदा होना अमूर नादरा में से है, खिलाफ कानून कुदरत नहीं. The first position which he has taken is that for Jesus Christ to be born without a father is not against the laws of nature, but belongs to that category which is rare. And there are things which are rare and there are things which are rarer. So according to Hazrat Masih Maud ﷺ, sometimes you have twin births, which is not against nature, but it is a rare phenomenon. So also a birth without a father is possible and it is quite natural, but this is a thing which happens very rarely and occasionally. So he goes on referring to certain cases contained in history and other books discussing the subject, that many a man has, other than Jesus Christ, has been reported by earlier scholars to have been born without the union between man and wife. He says, according to many Greek, Egyptian and Indian physicians, there are many examples where a child is born to a virgin without her meeting a man. Now, after that, Hazrat Masih Maud explains how it can happen naturally. Hazrat Masih Maud has taken the position that some women are born with both the faculties of men as well as faculties of women. So simultaneously they have both these organs within them. And it is possible for them to be activated at an appropriate time because of some excitement, so that the organ within releases both the organs within release themselves simultaneously, and the ovum of the mother part gets fertilized by the sperm of the father part within the same body. Now this is a position taken by Hazrat Masih Maud by way of a possibility. Now, strangely enough, among the earliest scholars, there is one scholar who has taken this position, exactly this position, and has tried to explain it in terms of the knowledge of his time. Now, as far as that explanation is concerned, we know this is wrong. This is not what happens. But his inference is correct. And he is one of the greatest scholarly scholars of earlier times. That is to say, Hazrat Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi is not just only a scholar in the ordinary terms, but he's a scholar who had contact with God, who is shown many a thing, and philosophy and deeper essence of knowledge is bestowed upon him by God through revelation. So that is why he stands out among all those scholars, earlier scholars who have commented on the Holy Quran. You find in him many a thing which you find in Hazrat Masih Maud later on, and in between there is a total gap. And no other scholar thinks in his terms. So here you will be surprised to learn what he has to write on this verse. And because I had not read it before, I was really surprised to find that during my question answer sessions, whatever I attempted to say during the present times is exactly what was said many hundred years ago by Hazrat Ibn Arabi. So he must have been shown this light from God, otherwise it's impossible for man to imagine such a thing and to reach the essence of this verse, these verses which deal with the subject. He says, इंसान का बगैर वालदैन के होना आलम हिकमत की एक नज़ीर है. For man to be born without parents is an illustration of great wonders of nature which God has created. Then he says, trying to explain how it happened, it may have happened in case of Mary, which I do not agree, of course, nobody would agree today. The manner which he proposes that it would have taken place, but the inference which he is drawing is correct. He says it is possible that a person contains both the male organs and female organs simultaneously. And he says, when such a person sees the figure of a beautiful man in, for instance, her dream or in her vision, then she is excited. And at that time, her ovum is released because of that state of excitement. And sympathetically to that, also the other part, the male organ, which is also possessed by the same person, is excited. And to this, according to Ibn Arabi, according to Ibn Arabi, has been referred to in the Holy Quran when it says, فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا, that when Mary conceived, just before that time of conception, she was shown the figure of an angel in the form of a most beautiful and comely looking man. So angel was shown to her in the form of attractive and beautiful man. So Hazrat Ibn Arabi says this is not meaningless. That shows that according to the Holy Quran, that is what excited Mary. Although she said, of course I'm a chaste lady, and if you have come with bad intentions, I'll not accept you. I'll not give you a chance to do whatever you have come with whatever intention you have come. But at the same time, according to Ibn Arabi, because God says he appeared in the form of a very charming and handsome person, so she must have got excited. Hazrat Masih Maud has taken exactly the same position after Ibn Arabi, and according to the scientific evidence which we are collecting, and I requested Dr. Mujib Sahib to help me there. Yes. We are trying to find other possibilities. Now what Hazrat Masih Maud has mentioned and Hazrat Ibn Arabi has suggested does not mean that they believe this is exactly what must have happened. You must understand this. What they believe is that something like that could have happened which would be natural. So you do not have to believe in unnatural things. In case of Jesus' birth, the birth is natural, that is positive. How it might have happened, this unusual thing, this is one of the explanations how it could have happened. So if we come out with something else through scientific discoveries, that doesn't mean that we are contradicting Na'uz Billah, God forbid, Hazrat Masih Maud or Ibn Arabi. It would only mean that working on the same lines we have come upon some better and more plausible solution. In the same lines as have been suggested by first Hazrat Ibn Arabi and then Hazrat Masih Maud in the modern times. हो गया आपको? हाँ? ठीक है ना? Hazrat Masih Maud has also said that this does not mean, according to Hazrat Masih Maud, it is not necessary that according to the Holy Quran, Adam was born without parents. The attitude of the Holy Quran is this, that you object to. You present the birth of Jesus Christ as so miraculous that no human being can share this miracle other than Jesus Christ. Has ever shared this miracle other than Jesus Christ. According to Hazrat Masih, the Holy Quran addresses them with reference to their beliefs, not saying that their belief is correct. What the Holy Quran says is, if you are right, then according to your own beliefs, Adam was born without both the parents. So you must believe him to be the Godfather then. If Jesus is the Son God, then he becomes the Godfather. Another point which is raised by Hazrat Masih Maud exclusively is this, that the debate got triggered off with the belief of the Christians that because Jesus' birth is unique and miraculous, so he must have some qualities of God which other human beings do not possess. So we understand he is the Son of God, this is why he is unique. As Masih Maud says that to rebut their claim, the Holy Quran has come out with an example as they understood best. The Holy Quran does not mean that births without father are unnatural, or except in the case of Adam it has not happened. So Hazrat Masih Maud explains that according to the Holy Quran, Adam was presented to them only because there they would agree with the position of the Holy Quran. This was their own belief. But according to the Holy Quran, Adam is not the only one who shared this. There were other human beings also who shared this phenomenon. Now this is very important statement of Hazrat Masih Maud. It shows that according to Hazrat Masih Maud, Adam was not the first in that sense. He was also born like other human beings. Because he says there Adam shares his phenomenon of birth not only with Jesus Christ but with other human beings also. The Holy Quran did not refer to them because the Christians would not believe. So the Holy Quran only remained limited to that part of the Christians' belief which was similar to the belief of Muslims. So
But this indicates that Hazrat Masih Islam's vision of Adam's birth was different from other scholars of his time, and he did not understand him to have been born out of clay like other people did. And then he points out that immediately God gave an example of Jesus' birth, proving the point that he was not unique, and also at the same time rebutting the Christian claim that he was Son of God. He says, according to the Muslims, Jesus has gone to the heaven, to the fourth heaven alive. And according to the Christians, his ascent to heaven was also one of the signs of his being God. Now, Hazrat Masih Maud Islam has inferred from this that if God wanted to rebut Jesus' the Christian claim that because something exceptional had happened to Jesus Christ, so he is Son of God, in this case also God should have spoken of sub-example and some similarity between Jesus and somebody else. So because there is no such thing which has ever happened, so God is silent about this. According to that, to Hazrat Masih Islam, it is a proof that Jesus never ascended to heaven at all. And God rejects this claim as such. Instead of giving an example, all right, if Jesus has ascended to heaven, we quote another person who also had ascended to heaven earlier. So both share this exceptional thing, so both are not godly. Instead of taking this argument, the Holy Quran rejects it, does not accept it, because if the Holy Quran would accept it as a unique phenomenon, then God will also have to accept that Jesus shared some qualities of God with God, because this thing did not happen to any other human being. You understand? This is rather a difficult, very minute difference, but I wanted to explain it to you. This is a proof of the death of Jesus Christ, and only Masih Maud extremely delicate sense of analysis could have reached this. वक्त तो हो गया है, मैं ये तो पूछा था आपसे, लेकिन नहीं, 2 बजे बनाया हुआ आपने लोग? नहीं. So this is the last we discussed today. Tomorrow inshallah we'll shift to another issue which is also debatable. Another verse which will take some time. मन हाज्जक फीह मिन बाद मा जाअक मिनल इल्म फकुल तआला नदु अबनाना व अबनाकुम व निसाना व निसाकुम व अनफुसना व अनफुसकुम सुम्मा नब्तहिल फनजअल लानतल्लाहि अलल काज़िबीन. This is the verse where mubahala is mentioned in the Holy Quran, and it is very important for us, for Ahmadis particularly, to understand this, what mubahala is, what it stands for, where, when it is permitted, to whom it is permitted, and also the question would enter a debate between Shias and Sunnis about what Ahmad understood from this verse, and according to the Shias, Hazrat Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam understood from this verse that his family members only comprise Hazrat Fatima, Hazrat Ali, and Hazrat Imam Hussain and Hassan. These were the only people whom he understood to have been addressed in this verse, and the rest of the Sahaba were left out. And many in Ahmadi, when they are confronted with this, they can't answer this question. So we'll also take it up. Also, the mubahala of Hazrat Masih Maud between Hazrat Masih Maud and
Molisnaullah is one mubahala which is nowadays being, let me say, misconstrued and misused by the non-Ahmadi scholars to prove to the ignorant people that in this mubahala which took place between Hazrat Masih Maud and Molisnaullah, Hazrat Masih Maud was positively proved false according to his own claim and his own offer and his own terms of mubahala which he had mentioned when he challenged Molisnaullah. So because this is very sensitive issue and nowadays it is being played up in all countries, in many languages it has been translated, and even in Africa I saw small pamphlets distributed to the ignorant African people that, see, this is a proof of Hazrat Masih Maud falsehood. He was treated by God exactly as he has demanded that Molisnaullah be treated because he was wrong, he was false. So these issues will inshallah be taken up tomorrow. Aftab Sahab, azan de dein.